Today, we're going to talk about 4 things that every producer should have extra of in their studio. Let's get it.
MIDI clip.
What's up? This is the THEKINGOCAESAR bringing you gear reviews, tutorials, and unboxings just like this one. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification button or end up like this lady. When you're running the studio, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that have to connect to each other. And if something fails, it could mean that your studio could be down. So these are 4 things that I believe that every producer should have in their studio in order to make sure that you keep your studio up and running. Let's get right into it. Number 1, extra cables. Now, there are 3 types of cable that I'm going to mention in number 1, but depending on what you're doing in your studio, one of these cables might not be as important as another one, but one of these cables I believe is essential in every studio, and that is patch cables. Patch cables are essential because they are the cables that you use to plug speakers into interfaces. You can also use them to plug instruments into amps or mixers or etc. So this is what your standard patch cable looks like. If you can get the gold plated ones, see these are nickel. If you can get the gold plated ones, those are better. Gold plated means better connection. Now, if one of these goes out, it can be really annoying, especially if you're using these to plug in speakers, because your monitor speakers are one of the main ways that you listen and interpret music so that you can mix correctly. So it's a good idea to have some extra patch cables laying around just in case one of those cables go out. Cable number 2 is your standard computer or MIDI cable. I'm going to try to give you a close-up to see what it looks like. Now, this cable is important because this is the cable that you typically use to plug your interfaces into your computer so that they can communicate with each other. You can also use this cable to plug in things such as MIDI keyboards. It's a good thing to have extra cables laying around for if one goes out. You never know what you're going to need these cables for. This third cable isn't a cable that's important to me, but if you're a person who uses your studio to record a lot, then having an extra mic cable could prove to be useful for you. Because the last thing you want to have happen in the session is for your mic cable to go out and not be able to record somebody. I always keep an extra mic cable even though I don't record as much as I used to. It's not that important to me, but it could be important to someone like you. So keep extra mic cables. Now, the number 2 thing that every producer should have extra in their studio is a good extra pair of headphones. Having an extra pair of good headphones isn't probably as important as some of the other ones that are on this list, but to me, it's vital because if you work like me at night and you want to be quiet, having a good pair of headphones is essential for you to be able to get good mixes out of what you're doing or whatever projects that you're working on. Also, having an extra pair of good headphones could prove vital to somebody who doesn't have an external way to hear their music like monitor speakers. So having an extra pair of these will make sure that your creativity won't stop even if these stop working. Third thing that every producer should have at least one extra of is an audio interface. Now, I know you guys are saying audio interface. Why should you have an extra audio interface? Those don't break that often. Well, I had a situation where my audio interface went out, and because I have multiple devices in my studio that can double as audio interfaces, my studio never went down. I'm going to show you a couple. So the audio interface I'm running in my studio is the Apollo Twin Quad Core. Now, if something happened to that interface, it's pretty expensive, so I wouldn't be able to just replace it just like that. So I keep interfaces like this one laying around. These days you can get really good budget-friendly interfaces such as the Focusrite 2i2, which is almost an industry standard for new people starting out. It's very similar to this old Inbox Mini that I'm holding in my hands. It'll have 2 inputs so you can hook up your microphones and lines, and it has 2 outputs so you can hook up your monitor speakers. So if your studio is kind of advanced, you might have gear in your studio that can double as an audio interface, so you might not need to buy an extra one. For instance, in my studio, my monitor control unit, my Mackie Big Knob can double as an audio interface. So can my MPC Live 2. Also, my Mackie Pro 12 mixer also can be used as an interface. With that being said, if my main interface goes down, I can use any one of these items to keep my studio up and running. Now, audio interface isn't something that's just going to break on you often, if ever. Like I said, I had this old Avid Inbox Mini for years and years, and it's still working just fine. But if your audio interface does go down, it could be catastrophic to your studio because it is considered almost like the heart of the studio. All the processing going in and out of your computer is most likely done through something like an audio interface. The first thing that you want to do is check and make sure that you don't have other devices that can double as audio interfaces. But if you don't, you can get something cheap like the Focusrite 2i2 as a backup, or something like this Zoom H6, which can also be used as an audio interface just to get you by until you can get a new one. The next thing every producer should do is hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. I would really appreciate it, and thank you in advance. The number 4 and probably the most important thing that you should have in your studio is external storage.
External storage.
Now, I'm not going to make myself more clear when I say that you absolutely need this in your studio. Now, I say this because there is nothing worse than having an arsenal of music, the best beats or best songs you ever made in your life, be wiped out in an instant just because your internal storage on whatever your computer or whatever you're using failed. This happened to me, so this is why it's so dear to my heart. So I woke up one morning and I tried to turn on my computer, and my computer did not want to turn on. And when I took my computer to Geek Squad, I later found out that it was because of hard drive failure. So I had to pay Geek Squad to replace my external hard drive and put the new operating system on my computer so that I could start recording again. I also paid them extra money to try to recover the files that I had on the hard drive so that I could put them into the new one. So after they recovered my hard drive, about 20% of my content was gone, and 60% of it did not work correctly in Pro Tools or FL Studio. Those were the programs that I was using at the time. So it was a total waste. And that's why I keep things like these now. Now, there are a number of portable external options that you can use. My number 1 option for backing up my stuff is an SSD drive. This is a Samsung T5 solid state drive. It's 1 terabyte, so that's more than enough to back up files or music, things like that. What makes this solid state drive better from a regular hard drive or disk drive is that there's no moving parts inside, so it's less likely to fail on you. I recommend anybody who's doing any type of music to get some type of solid state drive to back up your stuff, whether it's a Samsung or any other brand. They all work pretty much the same. Other external devices you can use are SD cards and portable thumbstick drives. Now, I will always default for going for a solid state drive over either one of these, but if you can't afford to get a solid state drive, you can get these two pretty cheap, and they have pretty good storage on them. This one is a 64 gig and this one is 128 gig stick. So you can still get a lot of content on this without breaking the bank, but they're not going to be as secure as the solid state drive, but they are still viable options to get you by in a pinch. Thumbstick drive and SD cards. Now, the reason why I put this category last is because I believe this is the most important thing that you need extra of in your studio, and I'm gonna keep driving that home, especially if you're somebody who works and makes money from your studio, because the last thing you want to do is turn on your computer and find out that your internal hard drive has crashed or failed in some capacity and you do not have your files backed up. And if you are running the studio and you're not actively backing up your projects, then you need to take some baby powder, put it in your hands, and smack yourself.
Come on with it. Baby powder? Smell that is. You changing diapers?
But I guarantee you that won't hurt worse than having hard drive failure. I guarantee it. There you go. The 4 things that I think every producer should have extra in their studio. I hope this video helps somebody today. And if you're in the market to get some of these items to have extra in your studio, I will have links in the description below to where you can go purchase these items if you're in the market to do so. I also have other videos you guys should check out. I will link a playlist up here in the corner to where you guys can check those videos out if you want to. You guys stay safe, be blessed, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.